Hi GenderqueerChat, it's Callie, it's Saturday, and this week we're talking about our parents and our relationships with our parents and what they think about our genderqueerness. So I suppose I always had a fairly good relationship with my parents, but I wanted to move away to university, which I have done, because I didn't really want to live in the kind of fairly kind of dull and ordinary suburban existence that they have, which I'll talk about at the end in the question about gender roles and things. But then when I came out as genderqueer and began really kind of expressing my gender identity, I found that things with my parents deteriorated somewhat, and that they were not as pleased with it as I would maybe have liked them to have been. And it came to a point in about March of 2010, which is shortly after I came out to them, and I hadn't been home to their house in Glasgow since I had started wearing makeup and presenting the way I do. And the long and short of it is basically they told me I couldn't come home while I was wearing makeup and the clothes that I wear. So the choice I had was I could either like not dress the way I dress or not come home. And what they said was, and I guess I kind of take them at face value about this, is that they thought that if my brother's friends saw me, then it would be difficult for him because they would tease him, and I mean that's never quite added up as a reason for me, but that's what they said anyway. And that it was on my brother's account, not that he had ever asked or has ever expressed any kind of. So that was not like a good time. So I just stayed here at university and didn't go home, because I mean the previous year it had been my habit to go home like at least once a month, because it's not very far away. This is a small country, and so coast to coast, because I am on the opposite coast from where I grew up. Coast to coast is, well, not quite coast to coast because it's not quite on the coast, but almost coast to coast is 3 hours, 2.5 by bus, and then half an hour by commuter train from the centre of Glasgow to where I live. So it's a short journey. You can go home for a weekend, and it had been my habit to go home about once a month. But I didn't do this for that whole semester. They came to see me, but I didn't particularly want to see them. Because I never knew whether, it wasn't like they were, I mean, okay, it wasn't like they were just saying, you're not part of the family, you are disowned. And, I mean, it's not like it wasn't, but they said, don't come home till the end of the semester. And so the kind of compromise was that I would come back, they were going away on holiday, and I would come back to look after their garden, and I would be in the house for the 3 weeks that they were on holiday. And so I had a date which I was coming back, which was when they were leaving, and the school holidays had, the school year had ended, and so my brother wouldn't be in the house and his friends wouldn't be in the house, and that was the thing, and that was the deal. And so this is what I was going to do, but then a friend of mine, her boyfriend broke up with her, and she was really, really upset. And I was saying to her, oh, well, it'll be fine, because when I come back in a week, this was the week before, when I come back in a week, I can spend time with you, and we can talk and things, and we can go into town, and it'll be nice. And then, and this I wrote in a text to her, and she texted me back saying, okay, but I don't really feel like going out of the house right now. And that really kind of worried me, because she's usually, that's very out of character for her. So I decided that I had to go and see her right away. I phoned the house, and my dad picked up, and I said, can I come this weekend? I know it's a week before we said, can I come home just for the night, because I have to see my friend. And there was a pause, and he said, well, no. And then he kind of tried to explain himself, but he wasn't letting me come. So I said, okay, well, fine, but I am coming back, and I have to find somewhere to stay, so goodbye. And then I hung up, and then I phoned my grandmother. Now, my grandmother is an amazing woman. She used to be a nurse, and she's like, and then my grandfather died when I was like 7, but you know, a lot of people, like old people who are in that situation, they just kind of give up on their kind of lives and things, and she's getting really old now, but she didn't like kind of just retreat into herself, you know. When that happened, she just kind of went, oh, I think she's amazing. And she's 86 years old, and she has never had a problem with like my genderqueerness, and she has come to visit me at university, and I just think she's brilliant. And I phoned her after I'd phoned my dad and said, and explained to her, I said that I needed to come home to see my friend, and that Dad didn't want me to stay with them, and could I stay with her? And she said, yeah, I'll make up the spare bed, just like right off like that. And so I was happy. So that was what I was going to do. I was going to stay with Granny that night. But then when I was on, because I had, like I said, 2.5 hour bus ride and then train journey. So I got on the bus, and my dad phoned me, but I didn't want to speak, like I saw my phone display and it was my dad phoning. So I just let it ring out and let it go to voicemail. And then it happened again, and he phoned me, and I let it go to voicemail. And then finally he phoned me when I was just about to get on the train, and I picked up, and he said, whoa, I've talked over with your mom, I've talked over with your... I'm not really doing his like voice. I've talked over with your mom, I've talked over with your brother, and yeah, we think you can come and stay. And I said, well, I've already arranged with Granny to want to stay with Granny. And he said, well, I don't want you to do that, and if you go to Granny, we'll just come and get you. And I said, well, what's that about? What is that? I still don't understand, even to this day, what that was about. But I felt guilty, you know, for just going to Granny's, and so I went home. And it was fine, I suppose. And the thing with my friend and her boyfriend was just horrible. And it was really messy for her, and she totally messed up her entire summer for months and months. She had a really bad time with it. And I was there around her for a bit, but she didn't. Anyway, it was bad times for her. and I considered myself to be pretty lucky to be, you know, in the state that I was. And since then I've been able to go home, although I haven't chosen to do it very much because I haven't felt like doing it. And things are kind of okay with my parents now, but anyway, that's my big thing. That's my big, you know, story, saga, odyssey. But things are, you know, things are much better now. They're still like, they don't acknowledge my genderqueerness, and I have not broached the subject of gender neutral pronouns. And they still do things like, I was talking to my mum about the Feminist Society, which I'm a member of. In fact, I'm the treasurer of the University Feminist Society. I was just elected last week treasurer. My mum was like, what's the split of the Feminist Society like? How many are male and how many are female? And neither of those voices that I've been doing for my parents, by the way, sound anything like them. That's just my kind of conceptual notion of their voices. And I was like, and I really didn't really want to answer that. I was like, well, I would say it's 60% female and 30% male and 10% gender variant or whatever. I don't think that's quite that's the proportion. I don't know how people would self-identify, first of all. I should have said that to her. I don't know how people would self-identify. I haven't asked all of them. That's what I should have said to her. But anyway, that's like esprit d'escalier. So yeah, they do that sort of thing. But it could be worse because, you know, yeah, I could be in a much worse position than I am in now. Yeah. So that's my... Oh, and I was going to talk a little bit about, just before I run out of time, about gender roles with my parents. Yeah, they would say that it's not, for the kind of lefty progressives that they are, they would say that it's, that, like, they've both worked their entire careers, but my mum has been part-time for about half the time that she's worked, and she took early retirement and now works at something else part-time. And my dad has worked full-time and has worked a lot and has been like really into his job. They're both social workers, has been really into his work for his entire career. And mum is always the one that does the cooking and the cleaning and the washing, even when she was full-time and he was full-time, because he would work a lot of overtime. But even considering that, neither of them can cook, but she has always been the one that does the meals. And so I just think that's quite interesting, the way that even though they're supposed to be like lefty progressives, they still kind of fall into those patterns. And I always thought it was weird, but if ever I bring it up with them, Mum says that Dad wanted to do all this work and she wanted to kind of be at home with us, and they do have arguments about him not doing enough around the house, but they never kind of bring up the kind of, that this might be because of their genders. So derive from that what you will. Okay, well, I'm going to go now. I think that might require a little trimming to get it down to the upload limit. But yes, nice hearing what everybody had to say. It was very interesting. I'm recording this a wee bit in advance, so I haven't had the chance to watch quite everybody's videos yet, but I will do. And people's who I have seen, it's all been really good and interesting. And yeah, I'll see you next week.